The massive Imperial ship hung in Earth's orbit like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. Its metallic surface reflected sunlight, creating an ominous glow that could be seen from the planet's surface. Earth's Unified Defense Force had detected the vessel 3 days ago, and now the moment of first contact was approaching. Inside the United Earth Defense Headquarters, Admiral Mark watched the main screen with steady eyes. His gray uniform bore the simple insignia of humanity's combined military force. The room buzzed with quiet activity as operators monitored their stations, tracking every movement of the alien vessel. "They're broadcasting again, sir," reported Lieutenant Bill from his console. "Same message as before. They demand to speak with Earth's leaders." Admiral Mark nodded slowly. After centuries of preparing for this moment, humanity had developed protocols for first contact, but the Empire's approach seemed aggressive, not at all what they had hoped for. "Send them the coordinates for the meeting point," Mark ordered, "and make sure our defense grid remains in silent mode. Let them think we're less advanced than we are." The chosen meeting location was a neutral facility on the moon. As the Imperial shuttle descended, automated defense systems tracked its every move, though they remained invisible to the Empire's scanners. The humans had learned long ago to hide their true capabilities. Inside the lunar facility's conference room, 3 human representatives waited. Admiral Mark stood with General Robert and Dr. Anna, Earth's leading xenologist. They watched as the doors slid open, revealing the Imperial delegation. The aliens strode in with an air of superiority. Their leader, Ambassador Rex, wore elaborate robes decorated with symbols of Imperial authority. His humanoid features were set in an expression of barely concealed disdain. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Empire," Rex announced, his universal translator converting his words to English. "We have come to offer Earth the privilege of joining our mighty civilization." Admiral Mark maintained a neutral expression. "We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations," he replied carefully. Earth would be interested in establishing diplomatic relations on equal terms. The ambassador's face showed surprise, quickly replaced by amusement. "Equal terms? You misunderstand. We are not here to negotiate. The Empire does not negotiate with primitive worlds. We are here to inform you of your new status as an Imperial protectorate." Dr. Anna stepped forward, her scientific curiosity evident. "Your empire must have encountered many civilizations. How many have you integrated peacefully?" "Peace is achieved through submission," Rex stated proudly. "Those who resist are taught the error of their ways. But do not worry. The Empire is merciful to those who accept their proper place." General Robert's hand tightened on his chair. "And those who refuse." The ambassador's smile turned cold. "In 10,000 years, no civilization has successfully resisted the Empire. Your primitive weapons would be useless against our might. Accept our offer, and your transition will be smooth." Admiral Mark rose slowly from his seat. His voice remained calm, but carried an edge of steel that made even the Imperial delegates pause. "Ambassador, let me be clear. Humanity has spent its entire history fighting wars among ourselves. We have developed our technology through conflict and necessity. We strongly advise you to research Earth's military history before making threats." "Are you threatening the Empire?" Rex asked incredulously. "Your species barely has space travel. You have no grasp of real warfare." "No," Mark replied softly. "We are warning you. Humanity has never fought an interstellar war, true, but we have spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare. If you force this conflict, you will learn why every human hopes to avoid war, because we are terrifyingly good at it." The ambassador laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the chamber. "Your primitive bravado is amusing, but meaningless. You will submit or face the consequences. You have 1 Earth day to reconsider your foolish stance." As the Imperial delegation departed, Dr. Anna turned to Admiral Mark. "They're going to attack, aren't they?" Mark nodded grimly. "They've never encountered a species that developed through constant warfare like we did. They don't understand what they're walking into. Should we reveal our true defensive capabilities? General Robert asked. No, Mark replied, watching the Imperial shuttle ascend. Let them come in overconfident. They'll learn soon enough why humanity has always feared war, not because we're weak, but because we're too good at it. The first contact was over. In 24 hours, the Empire would learn a harsh lesson about humanity's true nature. The stars watched silently, waiting for the inevitable clash between the ancient empire and the species they had gravely underestimated. 23 hours after the disastrous first contact, Earth's military leaders gathered in the Global Defense Chamber. Giant screens displayed the Imperial fleet's position. 15 warships had joined the original vessel, forming an attack pattern above Earth's atmosphere. Admiral Mark stood before the emergency session of Earth's United Council. Representatives from every nation watched as he activated the chamber's holographic display, showing detailed scans of the Imperial vessels. Distinguished leaders, he began, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. In 1 hour, the Empire will demand our surrender. Before they do, you need to see what we learned from scanning their ships. The hologram shifted, revealing the internal structure of an Imperial warship. Their technology is impressive, but predictable. They rely on brute force rather than innovation. They haven't had to evolve their military technology for thousands of years. A council member stood up. How do we compare? Mark's response was to tap his console. New images appeared. Earth's hidden orbital defense platforms, stealth ships, and automated combat systems. We've spent centuries preparing for this moment. Every war we fought taught us new lessons. While they grew comfortable, we grew stronger. He played a recording of the first contact meeting. The Imperial ambassador's arrogant threats echoed through the chamber. Several council members shook their heads in disbelief. In 15 minutes, I will broadcast our response to their fleet, Mark announced. Not a message of surrender, but a warning. One last chance to avoid what's coming. The council chamber erupted in discussion. After 5 minutes of debate, they reached a unanimous decision. Earth would not bow to threats. At exactly the 1-hour mark, Admiral Mark stood in the broadcast chamber. Behind him, massive screens showed Earth's combined fleet emerging from hidden docks around the planet. Ships that had been disguised as satellites revealed their true nature. Defense platforms shed their civilian coverings. The broadcast began. Every Imperial ship received the transmission. This is Admiral Mark of the United Earth Defense Force, he started, his voice firm. You came to our world demanding submission. You dismissed our warnings. Now, watch carefully. He nodded to his staff. On the outskirts of the solar system, a small asteroid exploded. The blast was precisely controlled, splitting the rock into perfect halves. That demonstration was performed by one of our mining charges, the kind we use for routine asteroid operations, Mark continued. We've had nuclear weapons for centuries. We've moved beyond them. Our weapons don't just destroy, they reshape reality. The screens behind him showed recordings of Earth's military history, tanks rolling across battlefields, aircraft carriers cutting through oceans, spacecraft conducting precision military exercises. Humanity has fought more wars than your empire has conquered planets. We've spent thousands of years learning how to fight, how to survive, how to win. Not because we love war, but because we had no choice. He paused, letting his words sink in. You believe you're invincible because no one has ever defeated you. We believe we can win because we've learned from every defeat we've ever suffered. Another demonstration followed. A small drone, barely visible to Imperial sensors, slipped through their formation undetected. It reached their flagship before they even noticed it. That drone carried no weapons, Mark explained. But it could have. Your sensors didn't detect it because we've spent centuries perfecting stealth technology. Fighting ourselves taught us that victory goes to the unseen. The Admiral's expression hardened. This is your final warning. Leave Earth's space. Tell your empire to approach us with respect, not threats. If you force this conflict, You will learn why humanity has always feared war, because we excel at it." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "You have 1 hour to retreat. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war, and unlike you, we know exactly what that means." The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, Earth's leaders watched the Imperial fleet on their monitors. Would they heed the warning? Or would they learn the hard way why humans had always been terrified of their own capacity for warfare? The next hour would determine if the Empire was wise enough to run, or foolish enough to stay and fight a species that had turned war into an art form. The Empire's response came exactly 1 hour later. Their ships moved into attack formation, weapons charging. They had dismissed humanity's warning as empty threats from a primitive species. That was their first mistake. "They're launching fighters," Lieutenant Bill reported from his station. The main screen showed hundreds of Imperial strike craft pouring from their capital ships, reading energy buildup in their main weapons. Admiral Mark stood calmly on the bridge of Earth's flagship, the Defender. His eyes tracked the Imperial formation with the practiced ease of a veteran commander. "Status of our defense grid. All systems ready, sir. Stealth fields holding." They still can't see our real defenses. The Imperial fleet opened fire. Massive energy beams lanced toward Earth, exactly as predicted. They expected to find a helpless planet. Instead, their weapons hit nothing but empty space. Holographic defense screen performing perfectly. An operator announced. "They're shooting at projections of Earth and our major cities. Real Earth remains safely hidden behind our displacement field." Mark nodded. "Time to show them what real warfare looks like." Launch Operation Shattered Mirror. Across Earth's orbit, hidden defense platforms awakened. Thousands of microsatellites, disguised as space debris, suddenly revealed their true nature. The Empire's radar systems exploded with new contacts as Earth's real military forces revealed themselves. "Sir, Imperial command ship is broadcasting," Bill reported. "They're laughing at us. They say our fleet is tiny compared to theirs. They're counting our decoys as real ships," Mark replied with a grim smile. "Execute Phase 2. The real attack began. Quantum torpedoes, weapons the Empire had never encountered, phased through their shields as if they didn't exist. The Imperial fighters found themselves engaged by eye-controlled drones that moved with impossible precision. "Enemy flagship taking heavy damage," Bill reported. "Their shields. They're using single-layer energy barriers. They've never needed anything better." Mark watched as humanity's multi-phase defensive systems easily absorbed Imperial weapons fire. Centuries of fighting each other had taught humans never to rely on a single type of defense. The Empire's formation began to break. Their confident advance turned into confusion as their weapons proved ineffective against Earth's defenses. Their fighters, piloted by crews who had never faced real combat, were being systematically destroyed by Earth's automated defense systems. "Imperial fleet is attempting to regroup," Bill announced. "They're falling back to their original position." "Show them what a real counterattack looks like," Mark ordered. "Launch the Ghost Squadron." From hidden bays around the moon, Earth's elite stealth ships emerged. These vessels, completely invisible to Imperial sensors, carried weapons specifically designed to target the weaknesses human analysts had identified in Imperial technology. The Empire's mighty warships began exploding one by one. Their crews, trained for ceremonial battles and easy victories, found themselves facing an enemy that had spent its entire history preparing for this moment. "Imperial flagship is launching escape pods," Bill reported. 3 of their capital ships have been destroyed. The others are attempting to retreat. Mark pressed a button on his command chair. "This is Admiral Mark to all Earth forces. Let half their fleet escape. They need to carry our message back to their empire." The battle lasted less than 30 minutes. When it ended, 7 Imperial warships lay shattered in space. The survivors, their proud formation now a chaotic retreat, fled toward the edge of the solar system. In the aftermath, Earth's real cities emerged from behind their displacement fields. The holographic decoys vanished, revealing that humanity had protected its civilization while letting the Empire waste its ammunition on illusions. "Damage report," Mark requested. "Minimal, sir. Our automated systems intercepted 98% of their attacks. No civilian casualties. 2 defense platforms need minor repairs." Mark stared at the retreating Imperial ships on his screen. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them Phase 1 is complete. The Empire now knows we can fight. Phase 2 begins when they return with their real fleet." He turned to his crew, seeing the same determined expression on every face. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for this moment. The Empire had just learned why humans had always feared war, because they had turned it into a science. The real test would come when the Empire returned. But this time, they would approach Earth with fear instead of arrogance. And fear, as humanity had learned long ago, was the beginning of wisdom. 2 weeks after the first battle, Earth's military command received the news they had been expecting. The Empire was mobilizing its main fleet, thousands of warships gathering for what they thought would be a crushing revenge attack. They hadn't learned their lesson yet. Admiral Mark stood in the war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the Empire's fleet movements. "Is everything in position?" he asked General Robert. "Operation Thunderstrike is ready," Robert confirmed. "Our stealth fleets are in position near their major supply lines. The AI combat systems have mapped out their entire command structure." Mark studied the Imperial fleet's formation. They were being more cautious this time, moving in tight defensive groups, but they still hadn't realized humanity's true advantage, the ability to strike where they least expected it. "Begin Phase 1, Mark ordered. "Let's show them what real warfare looks like." Across Imperial space, the carefully laid trap was sprung. Human stealth ships, positioned days earlier, launched simultaneous attacks on the Empire's supply lines. Quantum torpedoes ripped through their cargo ships. AI-controlled drones disabled their communication relays. Multiple Imperial fleets reporting supply shortages, an operator announced. "Their command and control network is fragmenting." Mark nodded. The Empire had never faced an enemy that attacked their infrastructure instead of their warships. They had no defense against human battle tactics honed by centuries of warfare. "Launch Phase 2, he commanded. "Activate the Ghost Network." Deep in Imperial territory, hidden quantum transmitters activated. These devices, smuggled onto Imperial worlds by stealth drones, began broadcasting the truth about the Empire's military losses. Colonies that had never questioned Imperial rule suddenly saw their master's weakness. "Sir, we're detecting multiple uprisings on Imperial worlds," Lieutenant Bill reported. "Their colonial forces are being overwhelmed by local resistance." The Empire's rigid military structure began to crumble. Their fleets, designed for straightforward battles, found themselves facing attacks from all directions. Human AI systems predicted their every move, while stealth ships struck their weakest points. "Imperial Command is trying to coordinate their response," Bill announced. "But their communications are in chaos. Each fleet is acting independently." Mark allowed himself a small smile. They still don't understand. They think war is about big fleets and bold attacks. They never learned that real warfare is about breaking your enemy's ability to fight. Reports continued flooding in. Imperial supply ships disappeared into quantum rifts, their cargo lost forever. Command centers fell silent as their communications were severed. Colony after colony declared independence, inspired by Earth's example. "Sir, their main fleet is attempting to advance toward Earth," Robert reported. "They're abandoning their colonies to launch one massive attack." "Exactly as predicted," Mark replied. "Execute Phase 3. Hidden throughout the Empire's territory, automated manufacturing facilities activated. These facilities, built by stealth construction ships over the past 2 weeks, began producing combat drones by the thousands. The Empire's Grand Fleet found itself under attack from within its own formation. Drones, appearing from quantum portals, struck with surgical precision. Ships lost power as their engines were targeted. Weapon systems failed under electronic warfare attacks. Imperial fleet is falling into complete disarray, Bill reported. Multiple ship commanders are surrendering to avoid destruction. Mark watched the tactical display as humanity's carefully planned strategy unfolded. The Empire had expected a defensive battle around Earth. Instead, they found their entire civilization under attack from an enemy that understood something they had forgotten. War isn't about fighting battles, it's about achieving victory. Send word to all human forces, Mark ordered. Proceed with final phase. Show mercy to any who surrender, but make sure they understand. The age of imperial dominance is over. Across space, the mighty Empire continued to fragment. Their fleets, scattered and confused, could no longer protect their territory. Their colonies, seeing the Empire's weakness, began reaching out to Earth for protection. In just 2 weeks, humanity had done what no species had managed in 10,000 years, not through superior numbers or stronger weapons, but through understanding the true nature of warfare. The Empire was about to learn its final lesson. Never threaten a species that had spent its entire history learning how to win wars, not just fight them. 1 month into the conflict, the Empire's structure began to collapse from within. What started as isolated colonial rebellions had transformed into a full-scale civil war. The Imperial Palace buzzed with panic as reports of defections flooded in. Admiral Mark watched the chaos unfold from the bridge of the Defender. Holographic displays showed dozens of Imperial worlds declaring independence, their forces turning against their former masters. Another battle group has switched sides, Lieutenant Bill reported. The Third Imperial Fleet is requesting Earth's protection. They're transmitting their command codes as proof of surrender. The Empire's rigid hierarchy was proving to be its greatest weakness. With their supply lines cut and communications disrupted, individual commanders had to make their own decisions. Many chose survival over loyalty to a crumbling empire. Status of Operation Breaking Chain, Mark asked. General Robert consulted his tactical display. Perfect success. Our AI systems have completely infiltrated the remaining command network. We're feeding false information to loyal Imperial forces while providing accurate intelligence to rebel units. The Empire had never imagined that warfare could be so complex. Their military doctrine, unchanged for thousands of years, had no answer for humanity's revolutionary tactics. Sir, Bill called out urgently, we're detecting a massive energy surge from the Imperial capital. They're activating some kind of ancient weapon system. Mark studied the readings. The Empire's desperate leadership had unveiled their final reserve, a planet-killing weapon that had ensured their dominance for millennia. They're targeting the rebel worlds, Robert announced grimly, trying to terrorize them back into submission. But humanity had prepared for this too. As the Imperial weapon powered up, hundreds of quantum field generators activated around the target worlds. The Empire's mighty weapon fired, and its energy dissipated harmlessly into subspace. Send the recording to all Imperial worlds, Mark ordered. Let them see that even the Empire's ultimate weapon can't protect them anymore. The effect was immediate. More Imperial forces began defecting, realizing that their leader's power was an illusion. Centuries of fear dissolved in the face of humanity's protective technology. Imperial Palace is sending a priority transmission, Bill reported. They're requesting immediate negotiations. Mark shook his head. Too late for that. Send in the Ghost Fleet. Earth's most advanced ships, completely invisible to Imperial sensors, emerged from quantum space around the capital world. Their weapons, not designed to destroy, but to disable, systematically shut down the planet's defensive systems. Reading multiple uprisings on the capital world, Robert announced, the Imperial Guard is fragmenting. Palace security has collapsed. The Empire's mighty throne room, untouched for 10,000 years, descended into chaos as royal guards turned against each other. Some remained loyal to the old order, while others saw the futility of resistance. Sir, Bill called out, We're receiving surrender offers from 80% of remaining Imperial forces. They're requesting integration into Earth's defensive network. Mark nodded slowly. Humanity's strategy had worked perfectly. Instead of trying to destroy the Empire, they had shown its subjects a better way. The promise of protection and freedom proved stronger than the bonds of fear and domination. Begin Phase 5, he ordered. Deploy the reconstruction teams. Show them we know how to build peace as well as we wage war. Across former Imperial space, human aid ships emerged from stealth. They brought not just supplies, but knowledge, teaching former Imperial worlds how to defend themselves, how to govern democratically, how to be truly free. Sir, Robert reported with a hint of awe, the Imperial Palace has fallen. The Emperor is requesting asylum on Earth. Mark allowed himself a small smile. The Empire had started this conflict thinking they were invincible. Now they understood what humanity had known all along. True strength comes not from domination, but from the ability to adapt and change. Send word to Earth Command, he ordered. The Civil War is effectively over. Now comes the hard part, teaching an empire that's known only war and domination for 10,000 years how to live in peace. The stars seemed to shine brighter as humanity prepared for its next challenge. They had proven they could win a war. Now they would prove they could build a lasting peace. The Imperial Palace, a structure that had stood untouched for 10,000 years, now showed signs of the recent conflict. Its golden halls, once filled with arrogant nobles, now hosted a different gathering. Admiral Mark stood before the massive throne, facing the Emperor who had launched this disastrous war. You never understood what you were facing, Mark said quietly. We tried to warn you. The Emperor, his ornate robes now wrinkled and stained, sat slumped on his throne. Around him, human and rebel forces secured the palace while former Imperial guards stood down. How? The Emperor asked, his voice barely a whisper. How did a single planet defeat the greatest empire the galaxy has ever known? Because you forgot the most important lesson of power, Mark replied. The strongest walls can be broken from within. We didn't just fight your ships, we showed your people a better way. Throughout the palace, scenes of surrender played out. Imperial officials, realizing their defeat was total, handed over command codes and security clearances. The mighty bureaucracy that had controlled thousands of worlds was dissolving. Admiral, Lieutenant Bill called through the comm. The last loyal Imperial fleet has surrendered. The outer systems are secure. The Emperor watched as his real-time tactical displays showed the extent of his empire's collapse. Entire sectors had declared independence or pledged allegiance to Earth's growing alliance. The carefully maintained structures of Imperial power had crumbled in less than 2 months. You could have killed us all, the Emperor noted. Your weapons could have destroyed our worlds. Why didn't you? Mark stepped closer to the throne. Because unlike you, we understand that true victory isn't about destruction. It's about building something better from the ashes of conflict. Throughout the palace grounds, human medical teams treated the wounded, both loyal and rebel forces alike. Earth's advanced healing technology, developed through centuries of treating war injuries, saved lives that Imperial medicine would have abandoned. Sir, General Robert reported, entering the throne room. The Imperial Council is ready to sign the surrender documents. They're requesting terms. Mark nodded. Show them the terms. No executions, no revenge, just transformation. The terms of surrender were displayed on the palace's massive screens. The empire would be dissolved, but its people would not suffer. Earth offered protection, technology, and guidance to all worlds, even those that had fought against them. You're going to help us? The Emperor asked in disbelief. After what we tried to do to Earth. We're going to help you learn what we learned centuries ago, Mark replied. That strength comes from unity, not domination. That power should protect, not oppress. Throughout the palace, Imperial symbols were being respectfully covered, not destroyed. Earth's approach was not to erase history, but to help write its next chapter. The rebel fleet commanders are arriving, Bill announced. They're ready to integrate their forces with Earth's defense network. The Emperor watched as his former officers pledged themselves to a new cause. They had seen humanity's power, not just in warfare, but in mercy. In less than 2 months, Earth had accomplished what no force had managed in 10 millennia. What happens now? The Emperor asked, finally standing from his throne. Now, Mark said, we show you why humanity spent so many centuries learning to end wars, not just win them. Your people will learn to govern themselves, to defend themselves, to be free. The surrender ceremony was brief but historic. The empire that had dominated the galaxy fell not to violence and destruction, but to something far more powerful, the promise of a better way. As the former emperor signed the final document, Mark sent a message to Earth Command. Phase 6 complete. The Empire has fallen. Beginning reconstruction phase. Send the teachers, the builders, the healers. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to wage war. It's our ability to build peace. The stars seemed to shine differently on the imperial capital that day. The fall of an empire marked not an ending, but a beginning. Humanity had proven it could defeat the greatest military force in the galaxy. Now it would prove it could build something even greater from the ashes. 1 year after the empire's fall, the former imperial capital hosted a very different gathering. Where once stood symbols of dominance and fear, now rose monuments to cooperation and progress. Admiral Mark stood at the podium, addressing representatives from 1,000 worlds. Today marks the official founding of the Galactic Federation. He announced to the assembled delegates, not an empire built on fear, but an alliance founded on mutual respect and protection. The Great Hall, once reserved for imperial ceremonies, now buzzed with activity. Former imperial worlds sat alongside Earth's allies, each having an equal voice in the new government. The transition has exceeded all expectations, Lieutenant Bill, now a diplomatic advisor, reported. 98% of former imperial worlds have adopted democratic systems. The remaining 2% are receiving additional support and guidance. Earth's influence had spread not through conquest, but through example. Former imperial citizens discovered that freedom and self-governance brought prosperity their old masters had never imagined possible. Trade routes are operating at full capacity, General Robert added. The new quantum defense network is operational. Every member world now has protection equal to Earth's. Mark watched as the former emperor, now serving as a cultural advisor, helped explain old imperial traditions worth preserving. Not everything from the past needed to be discarded, only improved upon. The educational initiative is showing remarkable results, a Federation coordinator reported. Former imperial worlds are advancing their technology at an unprecedented rate. They're learning to innovate rather than just maintain. Humanity's greatest victory hadn't been defeating the Empire, it had been showing the galaxy a better path. Former enemies now work together, building something greater than conquest could ever achieve. Admiral, Bill called out, the first graduating class of the Federation Defense Academy is ready for inspection. The military had changed too. Where imperial forces once trained for domination, Federation defenders learned protection and peacekeeping. Ships that once carried weapons of mass destruction now housed medical facilities and emergency response teams. The Federation Science Council reports another breakthrough, Robert announced. Former imperial scientists, working with Earth's teams, have developed new terraforming technology. Dead worlds can now be made habitable. This was humanity's true strength, not the ability to destroy, but to create. To take the best of the old and combine it with the promise of the new. Sir, Bill said quietly, long-range sensors are detecting signals from beyond the former empire's borders. Other civilizations are requesting contact. They want to join the Federation. Mark smiled. The galaxy was changing. The fear that had kept civilizations isolated was giving way to hope for connection and growth. The reconstruction of former imperial worlds is ahead of schedule, a project leader reported. The new infrastructure combines Earth's innovation with local architectural styles. People are proud of their cities again. Throughout Federation space, a new culture was emerging. Not Earth's, not the Empire's, but something unique, a blend of thousands of world's best qualities. Begin preparations for Phase 8, Mark ordered. It's time to explore beyond the old Imperial borders, not to conquer, but to connect, to learn, to grow. The Federation fleet, once the Empire's mighty armada, had been transformed. Ships carried scientists and diplomats alongside their defensive systems. Their mission was no longer to inspire fear, but to offer friendship. Send word to Earth Command, Mark said as he watched the delegates discussing their world's futures. The transition is complete. The Federation is stable. Humanity's greatest test wasn't winning the war, it was building the peace. As the session ended, representatives from 1,000 worlds stood together. Former enemies now worked as allies. Old hatreds had given way to new friendships. The stars looked different now, the former emperor observed, standing beside Mark. Not as cold as they used to be. Mark nodded, because now they represent opportunity, not territory to be conquered. The galaxy is entering a new age. The Galactic Federation's first year marked the beginning of an unprecedented era of peace and progress. Humanity had shown the galaxy that true strength lies not in the ability to dominate, but in the wisdom to unite, protect, and build. As ships from 1,000 worlds departed the capital, their lights traced new patterns among the stars. Not the rigid lines of imperial control, but the interconnected web of cooperation and mutual growth that would define the galaxy's future.